welcome to the 21st Century Writer Podcast, a podcast devoted to helping you establish the mindset that will help you and your writing flourish in the new world of self-publishing. My name is Diane Patterson. I'm a novelist and blogger, and with me is my co-host.
I'm Hannah Steenbach, a German author and coach.
And today we're talking about NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month, which is a
National November Writing Month.
No, it's National Novel Writing Month. That's where it got its name.
I'm sure Pamela can set us right.
Yes. We are here with Pamela Kelley, who is a successful novelist and novella writer, I believe, yes, who's written under a couple of names. And she has been a big help to me since I started floundering around in my self-publishing career. And she is not only a fan of NaNoWriMo, she is a local area coordinator. You have taken this on? Do I understand this correctly?
Yeah. This is the first year that I'm officially what they call a municipal liaison, and I just thought it would be fun.
Okay.
I did kind of an online version last year, and so I'm actually going to be incorporating both online and offline this year.
Okay. Well, I'd like to discuss what that entails, but first, let's talk a little bit about you. What is your writing story? And your publishing story, but both.
Okay. Actually, Nano kind of ties into it. I finished my first book, I want to say maybe 6 years ago, about 6 years ago, a first draft of a mystery, and I got the 50,000 words, so I officially won, but I still hadn't finished the story. I still didn't know who the murderer was, because I didn't at the time, I didn't outline, I just finished the whole thing. And I spent the next 3 years kind of tinkering, and while I was tinkering, I was a member of a local RWA group, and I had friends that had started to self-publish around 2011, and I always thought I was going to go the traditional route, assumed it. But I worked full-time, and it just took me a long time to get to the point where I was actually ready to do that. And by the time I was, everything had changed, and even though I was still writing and editing, I was also always studied and fascinated with the market and what was happening and how people were marketing their books. And I had some friends that were doing really, really well with self-publishing. So well that I decided I don't even want to try the traditional route. This makes sense to me. So, but I was still nervous, and was too scared to publish that Nano book. So I'm like, I'll just write another book as a test book, and I'll put that out as my first published book. And that way, if it fails, who cares? That's how nervous I was. So I wrote that book, and I wrote that book actually pretty quickly, maybe 2 months from start to finish and edit and everything.
Right.
I put that one out, and when I put that one out, I also was dying to test. The wisdom is you don't want to. They say don't advertise your first book, don't do anything until you have 3 books out. But I just wanted to play. I wanted to test. I wanted to see what would work. And I had just seen somebody, Darren Wehrmouth, had a book called First Activation, and he had actually posted his whole market strategy, which was basically launching at 99 cents, running a bunch of ads for a week or so. And he did a podcast on Rocking Self-Publishing and kind of laid out his strategy, how he did it. And I thought, oh, I'm going to try that for my book. So I did that exact same thing for my book. And it was really, really a lot of fun, and it was interesting to kind of strategize and see which sites worked well. And so this was about 2 years ago, actually exactly 2 years ago, end of November. And so that was the first one. And then when that book did pretty well, I then said, okay, I guess it's safe to release the mystery. So I released that in January. And kind of in hindsight, one thing I learned is it's probably a good idea to release books in a series. And I still didn't really have my act together, so I didn't release book 2 in my series until April. And it was comically enough. You don't know how long it's going to take to do things, and I thought it was going to be done in December for a Christmas book, which was just silly. So that book, Mistletoe in Montana, came out in April. But it actually still did okay because I did another marketing strategy, and I got my first book club on 6 months.
Oh,
And
Wow.
when I had the free BookBub, I timed it to coordinate with the release of the second book in the series, and that worked out really well. So I've just had a lot of fun trying different things in marketing. And then my books are kind of Western. They're set in Montana. They're contemporary romance, but they're set in Montana. So then I thought, I started seeing all of these historicals, and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll try one of those. And just kind of on a whim, I tried. Just about a year ago in October, I wrote the first one. And then I wrote the second one, an immediate follow-up as my NaNoWriMo book. And that was a novella. And that book actually was my best-selling book of last year. So I've been actually concentrating and writing more of those and playing around with those. So I write the contemporary, the historicals, and the mysteries so far.
wow. So
So that's my
three,
story.
three different series. Okay, I'm getting feedback. Do you have
A very
speakers?
bad echo.
What? What did you
We
say,
have a
Hannah?
very bad echo in here.
Yeah, there's a very bad echo. Okay,
Oh,
I guess it's gone away.
Pamela, do you have speakers on or do you have headphones?
Um, I don't have speakers on. I mean, I don't have headphones on.
Okay.
Okay. Is there any way you could put some on? I mean, I know it's very short notice and it's difficult.
Shoot, I don't think I have any headphones. Is it echoing
Well,
when I talk?
yes.
Yeah, because if the echoing, the feedback happens, the echoing happens when the speakers are too close to the microphone, and Google Hangouts can't decide which it's listening to. Okay, well, it seems to have stopped for right now, but if it does happen, I mean, if you have like your phone headphones around or something, um,
I don't. I'm sorry. I don't know.
okay. Well,
We'll
so
have to
well,
manage.
let's see if it happens again. So National Novel Writing Month, and let's look it up right now. Let's National Novel Writing Month. Let's go to the website. La. The title of the website is National Novel Writing Month. So
I guess you're right.
yes, they picked November because it has 30 days,
I wasn't
and
even.
it made for an even distribution. They said 30 days was easy, and there's this big holiday in the middle of it that a lot of us, I certainly use Nano to, sorry, I can't socialize right now. Gotta go write my novel. I've done that many years.
Yeah,
So
I've
National
done
Novel Writing
the.
Month started here in the Bay Area, up in Berkeley. I guess Chris Batty or Beatty was
Yeah.
with some friends, and they decided to write books. And he picked a book off the shelf. I think it might have been Capturing the Rye. Figured out how many words it had, and then said, "Okay, write that many words." So they all sat down and wrote novels that month. And the next year, they told people about it, and it's just been exploding ever since. I myself did it the first time, I think, about a decade ago. I had two little kids. I had two little kids. And I said, Mommy's got to go right now. Mommy needs to make time to write. And it was really one of the best experiences I've ever had writing. That novel did eventually become You Know Who I Am, which is the first book I published. It's got some things in common with that first draft. A lot changed. But it was, for me, one of the best experiences that I've had writing because it was exciting to sit down every day and find out what would happen. And I completed a book, which up until that point, I had abandoned a lot of books up until that point. So Pamela, and Hannah has also done NaNoWriMo, right?
Yes, several times. I don't remember when I started. Um, I my Nano Remo page says I joined in 2003 or something. I can remember three novels for sure. I did it last year and had to abandon it. Things just got chaotic with other stuff. And I know I abandoned at least two other attempts, but I had three novels that came out of it. And none of them has been published. I wrote all of them in German because that time, no, actually last year's was in English, but I used to have an agent and they had obviously representative rights for my novels, so I had to write them in German. One of them is close to getting published. It's going to be my first German novel that I've self-published. It's about a paranormal detective in my old hometown and how he runs into demons. And in fact, I researched a location last week when I visited my father. And I told him, there's this location and I just made it up. I just looked everything up on Google Earth and websites and I know exactly where it is. And it's an area where there are caves. It takes place in a cave. And he said, you know what? It's not that far. Let's go there and check it out. And so we went and checked out the location for my big showdown and crawled around in the underbrush and looked at the things. I decided I was pretty much spot on with the place I chose. There is no actual cave there, but there are others in the vicinity, and I don't want people to explore the dangerous ones. So
Pamela, you started a couple of years ago. I guess you haven't been doing it as long as we have.
No, I've been doing it like 9 or 10 years, I think.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Yeah. There were many years that I didn't come close to winning, though.
That you came close or didn't?
That I didn't come anywhere close to winning. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I've had 2 or 3 years like that.
Yeah, the first time I won was about 6 years ago.
Oh, I won my first year. I was very excited. I found out who the murderer was the last day. I had no idea.
I love it.
But it's funny how many things changed in that draft, but the murderer remained the same. I just hinted at it this time. So what did Nano do for you as a writer?
The most important thing it did for me was it got me to write into a writing routine, like to write every day. And the first couple times I tried it, it didn't. It wasn't until the year that I won that I sat down and I figured out, okay, what always happened to me, the reason I didn't win was I'd get behind early and then I would just be frozen and so discouraged. The year that I did win, I just got up early. Like, you kind of have to figure out what's your best time of day to write and then set that time aside and do a little bit every day. And so I figured if I just got up early and I wrote before I went to work, I'd get it over with, and it worked out pretty well. And I think still when you're kind of, for me, if I'm kind of half asleep a little bit, it just gets me right back into the story, so that was helpful.
Ooh.
So had you been doing writing before Nano, or did you hear about it and go, oh, that sounds like fun?
Writing forever. Yeah, I think I heard about Nano maybe just from one of the writers groups I was in.
Oh, okay. So you've been doing Nano. I guess it's given you the writing routine. How did you get involved in being a municipal liaison? I mean, I've been doing Nano for a while and haven't participated that way.
Yeah, I think what made me think about it was last year I started up an online group doing it, and we had this little group, and just to kind of motivate each other, so I posted something every day, and we set up a little chat room, and we started doing sprints in the chat room, and everybody's productivity just went through the roof. And so now we still, if Nano ended, we kept the group. We changed the name to Sprinting with Friends. So now we have, I think, about 300 people in this group. Not everybody goes all the time, but there's always somebody, if you want to sprint, there's always somebody in the chat room. But after doing that, I'm like, I like to participate locally too, and they didn't have a leader. And I'm like, oh, I can do that. So I did.
Cool.
So what did the liaisons do online and in person?
You're basically just a cheerleader. You try to get everybody motivated, get them excited. What I will be doing is probably posting something every day, and just little tips, doing meet-ins, going to like a local coffee shop, or doing some sprints in person, that kind of thing.
Right. What has the Nano community done for you? I admit I go on the boards every year and post and stuff, and I haven't really made a connection with the writers there that I have on some other boards. But I can see how you can if you're more involved in it.
It really just depends. Year to year, it varies. It depends who shows up. You know, one year that I did it, it was a big group and it was a lot of fun. This year, we'll see. I don't know. It just depends. It seems like it might be a smaller group.
Will you do a kickoff meeting on Sunday?
What's that?
Will you do a
What?
kickoff meeting on Sunday?
Yes. Yes, we are. We are. And I'm doing a pre-meeting on Saturday to talk about like planning and outlining and that kind of thing.
That's cool.
Wow, that's cutting it kind of close.
Yeah.
Well,
Exactly.
I mean, the motto is no plot, no problem, so. Yeah, I haven't looked her up, but I suppose we have a liaison here in Kiel, where I live, in Germany. And Germany is pretty big on Nano as well, and so it sounds good. I've been to a couple of meetings, but I never felt the urge to organize any myself. So.
It's funny, the first year that I did Nano, there were 50,000 people worldwide doing it, and I checked, and now I think it's close to 350,000 people doing it, which is
I
crazy.
think it's over 1 million, honestly. I think the 300,000 is just the US.
Wow.
Oh, maybe. Maybe it could
Very
be.
well be. Yeah, I'm amazed at how many people I mention it to, and I say Nano because I always refer to it as NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month, and the number of people who know what I mean by nano. It's gone up dramatically in the past couple of years. It's really surprised me. So let's talk about the Nano process. For those of you who haven't done National Novel Writing Month, it is the month of November, and it runs from November 1st at 12 a.m. your time, or is there a specific time? Greenwich Mean Time? Now, November 1st to November 30th, you are supposed to write a complete novel of 50,000 words that you can plan all you want before November 1st comes, but when November 1st comes, then you start writing the actual text of the novel. Now, are there plenty of people who don't pay attention to these? Yes, there are. But the general idea is to do a completely new, never written before novel starting November 1st. So let's talk about the process of doing this. And, you know, we see many of the same things happen year after year. Talk a little bit about the process that a new Nano participant goes through when they start this.
It's funny. They actually send around some cute emails that tell you how you're going to feel at different points in the process, and they're pretty much on target. I think the first week, everybody's euphoric. They're all excited about their big idea. They start writing, and then, you know, they might get ahead in word count. By the end of the week, now they're like, oh, what do I do now? Kind of, you hit the middle part, and it's like, or if you might get behind a day or two, then the panic starts to set in. So I think weeks 2 and 3 are the tough ones, but if you keep at it, then by week 4, you're either playing catch-up or you're like racing to the finish.
Yeah, everybody seems to hit the wall. I'd say about at the end of the second week. It's like, now what do I do? I've run out of story. I don't know what anybody's doing. People will go on the boards and say, I need some plot. Somebody tell me what my character should do.
The German group had this thing of go meet the wise old man in the kitchen, and that was a plot bunny everyone used to get out of being stuck.
Hey, there's the famous one from, who was it, Philip Marlowe? What's the writer's name? When in doubt, have someone run in with a gun.
Blow something up, yes?
Yeah. So then you get to the end, and there's an awful lot of excited people, many of whom, especially in the new world of self-publishing, want to immediately go publish their novel.
Yes.
What advice do you give them, Pamela? Maybe none. I mean, maybe that's not your job. But what advice would you give them if you could?
I think at that point, you know, just remind them it's a first draft. You know, the whole point of Nano is to just get the first draft out and then go back and fix it, make it better. That's probably going to take, well, for a lot of people, that might take a longer than a month, you know, and get it to the point where it's ready to be published. It might not be finished. It might, like me, you might get 50,000 words, and you still need to find out who the murderer is. You still have another 20 or so thousand to write, which is okay, you know. And I think it's going back in. It's cutting, it's adding, it's making it stronger, sending it out to editors, really kind of fine-tuning it before you send it out.
What do you think most new writers learn about the process in the course of, now I had written several long-form things the first time I'd done Nano. I'd written a couple of novels, and I'd written a number of full-length screenplays. It still wasn't a major learning process for me that first year. I mean, every novel is a major learning process, but what do you think most writers learn as
I think the main thing they learn is that they can actually finish something, or they can get to 50,000 words. You know, you mentioned you had abandoned novels. I think I had at least 6, where I'd get, you know, nobody ever told me until finally they did, but I guess it's normal to get a quarter of the way in and start to think that it's the worst thing ever written. And there's no saving it. You've got this great shiny idea that's much better. So I pushed a lot of things aside, and then somebody, I know, a published friend was like, "Oh, that happens to me with every book. You got to keep going." I'm like, "Oh." So that was kind of a light bulb moment. You just got to keep going, and when you get to the end and you go back and you read it, it's never as bad as you think it is.
Yeah.
So you have a lot to work with.
Something that I would like to mention to our listeners, NaNoWriMo taught me to count my words, to actually do a word count. I wrote 2.5 novels before ever doing Nano. And with Nano, that's when I started creating a word count list. And I have this nice little Excel sheet where it sums up how much I've written. It shows me exactly how far I should be, and it shows me the daily word count and if I'm ahead or not. And it actually also shows me if I'm behind by how many words and if I'm ahead by how many words. I just set it up in Excel to have this nice track to tell me exactly where I am. And whenever I have the discipline to do a word count and to keep a word count sheet for whatever I'm doing, whatever project I'm in, I write more. I'm much more disciplined. I have this feeling, oops, you haven't done your 1,000 words for the day yet. And that is something Nano taught me, that you really should measure your word count, your daily word count. And for Nano, you have to do 1,667 words per day, and then you end up at 50,002, I think, at the end. And you know, if you do it for 30 days.
Right.
And so that was my yardstick. That was what I wanted to do every day. And I remember one year when I said I'm going to do 2,000 a day, and I did it. I finished Nano on the 25th, which was kind of awesome. That was an awesome experience, and I think this is something only Nano can do for writers.
There is something about the group process of
Yes.
all of these people, even if you don't go to the Nano boards, and like I said, I'm not a big participant on them, just knowing that there, you know, you find other writers, you become writing buddies with them, you can see how their word count is doing. Just the idea that you're all doing this together is really inspirational. It makes you feel, okay, this can happen. We can all do this together. It's sort of the vortex of energy.
Absolutely.
And I get very excited, even if I don't have something planned or I know that it's going to be a tough month. I'm taking 2 trips in November. I'm still really going, squee, it's November, writing something new. I mean, a lot of writers, I think, a lot of new writers, a lot of writers who are just like, I know, I'll write a 50,000 word novel. They open their writing document, they begin telling this story that maybe they've had in their mind, what's the first roadblock that they encounter? Because we've all hit it.
I think it's when they just get stuck and they don't know what's going to happen next. You know, you get that burst of a big idea, and you kind of get the setting, and then you're like, well, what should happen next? And then you panic, and you're like, I don't think I have enough story here for 50,000 words. I mean, that happens to me with every single book, pretty much. And you just have to keep going.
Yeah, you have to dig through a lot of stuff to find the story. And I think if you don't have it planned out ahead of time, you are going to be taking some crazy left turns. That may not pan out, and you'll have to get rid of them in the next draft. But the thing with Nano is you don't have time. You have to do your 1,600 words a day or whatever you have to do to catch up. You know, really.
Is there anything you do? I mean, do you work with a daily word count during Nano, and what do you do to motivate yourself to write it?
What I do, and what helped last year, that was the best thing ever, was the sprint group. So we have this group where, and sometimes just 5-10 people in the group at once. And what we do, and they're all over the world, so everybody's in a different time zone. So we don't say we're going to start a sprint at 2 o'clock. We say we're going to start a sprint at 00. And then it's whatever time it is, wherever they are. And we're going to go for 30 minutes. And then we go off and we write for 30 minutes. And then we come back and we take a 5-10 minute break. And we say, oh, how'd you do? You know, we chit-chat. And then we go again for another sprint. And so if you string together 4 or 5 sprints, you know, you're going to easily hit your word count for the day. And, you know, most people are averaging anywhere from, on the low end, maybe 300 if they're not sure where they're going. I've seen people do as high as 1,300 if they're, like, type fast and they have it all planned out. So it adds up. And it's fun. The group energy keeps people going.
Yeah, I do about 700 words per half hour.
Yeah, it's funny, but my first Nano, I remember looking at the numbers going, no human can write 1,667 words per day. Are these people insane? And I think during that first month I had a couple of 5,000 word days in order to catch up. So much for that idea.
I have an Australian buddy who always goes for a double Nano. He writes 100,000 words in November.
Oh, there are some crazy Nano writers out there. There's a couple of people who do 1 million words in the month, something like that.
They must be writing from dawn to dusk. I mean,
that's all I'm going to say about that. They're young. That's the kind of thing you can do when you're.
Do it in one day. The 50,000 one day.
Yeah, 50,000 one day. There are some people who rack up some crazy numbers, and then every year someone says you're cheating, you're cutting and pasting Wikipedia or whatever, and you know what? It doesn't matter. So what if someone's doing that? Good on them. They don't get a prize. They don't, you know. The only prize is what you do for yourself by the end of the month. I mean, you turn in 50,000 words. Nano says, "Woohoo! Nano winner." You know whether you did it or not. It doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. It's like the ultimate look at your own paper party.
What it also taught. Oh, well, we're talking all the time. Go on. Pitch in, Pamela.
Well, one thing I'm going to do differently this year is outline. I've never done that before, or is to any extent. But I think that'll make a difference. Because the year that I won, that it came easily, even though I didn't outline. I had been thinking about that story for a long time, so I kind of knew probably 70% of it I knew, and so I think that's why it was much easier for me to fly through it. But I have some friends that have been writing quickly and writing well with outlines, so I've been kind of fascinated in picking their brains as to how they outline. So I'm going to try that and see how that goes for Nano. I think it might speed things up a little bit for me.
Yeah, that's definitely the one thing that I've learned from over the years, from my own work and from talking to other people. Pretty much outlining, having some kind of roadmap is the way to go. It is often the difference between finishing and abandoning it in frustration. So yeah, at least knowing your beginning, middle, and end is
Yeah,
pretty
I'm
key.
kind of a minimalist. I know the beginning, I know the end. I make up the middle while I go. And Nano has taught me to trust that process. Um, it's fascinating. I love the fact that I can come up with plot twists at night when I'm in bed and discover the story through writing. I love this. Jerry Pratchett once said that for him, starting a story is like standing on a pass between two mountains and looking down into the valley, and the valley is shrouded in fog. And what you can see is the beginning of the path downhill, and you can see some treetops, and you can see the mountains surrounding the valley. But the details only emerge when he starts walking, and that's when he figures out the details. And he knows he wants to get, downhill to the end of the valley, so he knows where he wants to be in the end. But he discovers the details by walking, and I thought that was so fascinating. That image has stayed with me because that's basically how I write. I discover the details. I discover the adventure during the writing, and I love that process. It's just,
So who do you find does Nano? Are they mostly frustrated novelists or writers who, quote unquote, can't find the time? Are they just people who heard about it and thought it sounded like fun? Who is the Nano participant audience?
What I found is locally, it seems like it's a lot of new writers. Some younger people, some older people, it's all ages, but a lot of it is people that have always thought about writing a book and have never done it before, and they see this as a way, like I did, to kind of maybe finish something, to see if they can do it as a challenge. Most of them, there's maybe one or two that have published something, and that are like me, that are just looking for that extra boost, that extra kind of just fun nano experience. But I think it attracts a lot of newer writers that are just kind of dipping their toes in the water.
And these are people who you think have an identity as writer. Not like, oh, writing was fun in school, maybe I'll try something. This is something. These are people who want to create worlds, who want that experience.
I think it's a mix. I really see a mix. I think some people have
Oh,
never written anything
we're
before.
losing your voice there.
Some people that have never finished any people that.
Oop. Okay. I think we're going to take a pause. Let me take a pause here and make a note to myself. Can you find headphones or a mic? Because your voice keeps cutting out.
I can have a run downstairs and get some. I'll be gone a couple minutes.
That's fine.
don't worry about it.
I will. Yeah, I'll cut this out. Believe me.
I'll come back.
Okay. And I just realized I better close my door before someone comes in here. Just a second. My office can get so stuffy with the door closed and not having the fan on, and I can't have the fan on while we're recording, so it's going to get hot in here.
Yeah, which is kind of fun because it's dropping below 10°C by here, and it's pitch dark outside, and we're getting the first nights with frost.
Yeah. Well, we've a couple mornings recently been going out and everything's wet, so it's clearly raining at night. It's not raining during the day yet, but
Nice.
here's to hoping.
Or it could be really heavy dew. I mean, that also works. It doesn't even have to be rain.
Does Europe do daylight savings time?
It does, yes. We came off last Sunday.
Yeah.
And we still have an echo, but I think it could come from Pamela's speakers.
Yeah. I haven't been hearing it that much, but her voice started cutting in and out for me.
Yes, it did for me as well.
Okay.
So yes, we do daylight savings. We usually end.
We changed ours to the Sunday after Halloween, so that kids aren't going out trick or treating in the dark.
Yeah, I understand that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So we always go back on the last Sunday in October, and we usually go on sometime in March. I hate it. I just absolutely hate it. I
Everyone
think
hates it. We go through this every year. Why do we do this? I don't know.
I don't know either. I mean, I know Arizona doesn't do it, and I envy them.
Yeah, well, maybe smell. I'll close my
And
mouth.
there's a lot of people in Germany who want to change it, but by now it's a big European thing, so it has to be changed by Europe, basically, because all member states are doing it on the same day.
Right.
And it's even an hour, but I mean, it's just an hour, but it messes up my sleeping habits. It messes up everything. I wish they would just get rid of it and just have normal time throughout the year. And I would rather have less sunlight at night and not have to deal with the change. I mean, seriously, I'm not the person who's sitting outside in beer gardens in the summer anyway. So.
Yeah, I know. Cannot believe I'm taking 2 trips this month. Oh well.
Yeah, I woke up at 5 today. So
What?
I woke up at 5 today because I usually get up at 6 and my body is still adjusted to the old time and I just absolutely hate it. And you will be jet lagged, won't you? I mean,
Yeah.
traveling to the East Coast at least once.
Yep, to the East Coast, back. To the East Coast, back.
Oh, that's going to be painful.
Yeah, well. It's okay.
Lots of writing time, though.
What?
Lots of writing time on the plane.
Well, yes and no, except I'm going to be in Asheville, so I'm going to be in the conference for a couple of days.
Yeah, I know that.
No writing happens on those days, let me tell you.
Nope, it doesn't. I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was exhausted at the end of the days, and we have homework. I mean, it's not as if, the coaching ends and you go home, or you go to the hotel and do nothing.
Yeah.
No.
Well, you go out, socialize and talk to people. You go out and do things. Yeah. It's nonstop.
Yeah, the days are just intense. I mean, I was only there once, but I really truly enjoyed it. Pretty awesome. Ah,
There she is.
welcome back.
Okay, so let's see how that sounds.
Is that better?
Yeah, you're not cutting out. So let's see how that goes.
And I have a question for you. Am I
Yes.
supposed to hit something when I talk to show up there, or do I it just goes?
It just goes back and forth.
Whoever talks gets the camera. It automatically switches between us depending who's talking. Or who makes a noise, which is why it sometimes flashes back and forth.
And it looks as if you lost Pamela.
Yeah. Pamela?
Hold on. Okay.
Ah, there you are.
If you're having trouble with the setup, you can go to the top of the screen where there's a 6-sided settings button.
I think I'm okay.
Okay. All right, so you can hear us?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to admit I have no idea what we were just talking about. We started talking about daylight savings time, and now I don't remember what the conversation was before.
We were talking about the kind of writer who attends Nano.
Right.
And if it's young authors, inexperienced authors, or experienced authors, published authors. And I think you said it's a mix of young authors and inexperienced ones.
Yeah, I think it's really everything from people that have published. Like there's one woman who has published a bunch of books with Harlequin that's local. There's high school students. There's, moms that are, thinking that they might try this. It's really a mixed bag, which makes it fun, I think.
As they find the joy of creating a new world and the agony of not knowing what comes next.
Exactly, exactly.
Why do you think young writers are so keen on doing this?
I think young writers, I think it's more accessible now. You know, when I was younger, I'm going to date myself, there were no computers. You know, there was no internet. You know, now they have this whole world at their fingertips, and they can do this online. They can go meet in person. I think things just seem more possible, and especially with self-publishing, it is more possible.
Yes.
Do you know of any success stories either in your area or that you know of online of people who've jumped from Nano to self-publishing? I mean, you
Uh,
know, where it's like now they have a career as a writer.
well, me.
Well,
You know,
okay, yes.
yeah, that's pretty much, you know, how it went for me. Um, Locally, I don't. No, I know there's tons all the time. Um, I know Sarah Gruen that wrote Water for Elephants was a Nano book, and that was her huge breakout.
Yep.
Huge. I mean, she was already published, but that book, you know, really took her to a whole different level.
Yes.
Yeah. I have a nano buddy who has not self-published, but I think her first success book, can't think of the name. I mean, her name is Sherry Ramsey. She's in Canada. She's in Canada, in Halifax, or not Halifax, but sort of like that area. And I'm horrible with names. Excuse me. Um, I think her first big novel that came out, and she's publishing with a small press in her area. That was a pretty good success, and that was a nano novel. I'm fairly sure I recollect that correctly. Sherry Ramsey's her name, and Sherry, if you hear us, hi.
It's funny. I just typed in NaNoWriMo success stories into Google, and it said Hugh Howey. Hugh Howey had a novel outline already for NaNoWriMo 2011, but right before it kicked off, his self-published novelette Wool suddenly started racking up views and comments. He realized that rather than start a new novel from scratch, it would behoove him to play around in this world some more. That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, I'd say that worked out well.
Yeah, I'd say that worked out well. I know that there's a well-known women's fiction author, and now I cannot remember. The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. Interesting.
Oh, wow, that was a huge book.
That was a huge book. The Night Circus, Persistence of Memory. Oh man, I wish I could remember the book. She started as kind of a fun thing and started her whole career after it. Oh well, didn't look it up. My bad. But yeah, no, real, and a lot of writers who have published. I know C.E. Murphy has continued to do Nano, or started doing Nano even after she was published. Hugh Howey was doing it for a while, but I believe he's sailing around the world now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he just reached Brazil.
Oh, are you following this?
Yes, I am.
That's funny. So what do you find most people get out of this experience? I mean, besides the writing experience. How does it change their behavior, if at all? What do they learn?
I think if anything, it probably gets them excited to write. You know, it might get them into a routine where they can start to write regularly. But I think more than anything, it probably just builds their confidence, even, just to think that they can come close to finishing a book, that they might actually be able to do it again. I think that's probably the biggest, for a lot of them, that's the biggest thing, is the fact that they can do it and just finish something.
So if I play devil's advocate here, boy, are there a lot of novels being published these days, particularly self-published. Do you think that's such a good idea?
I think that I really believe in the analogy that cream rises to the top. I think it's fine. If people want to publish it, let them publish it. It's their call. If they want to take the time to make it the best that it can be, then their odds for rising higher in the pile are going to be a lot stronger. I think I think that anybody could publish a book within a couple of months and have it do really, really well if it's a really good book. I do think that a really good book always has a good shot. A book that's slapped together and thrown out there, not so much.
Do you think many of the people who participate in Nano have that as a goal? Excuse me. That they see themselves, oh, I am a writer now, I'm going to go publish many novels? Or is that completely separated from the process?
I think it's actually, for most people, it's interesting. I think it is separate. I think a lot of people, there's some people like myself and certainly many others that, they have a taste of this. They're like, yeah, this is what I want to do. I want to make a career as a writer. This is how I'm going to do it. And they have, they treat it like a business and they set their goals. But I think there's just as many people, I've met a lot of people locally that they're not thinking that way. They're not thinking I'm going to put out X number of books this year. I'm going to make X number of dollars. That's not even fathomable to them. They're just thinking, I want to finish a book and have it published and give a copy to my family. And to them, that's successful, and I think that's just as successful if that's their goal. And there's plenty of people they might have one book in them, and that's all they want. So, I think there's a whole variety of goals for people.
And in my Nano group, when I went there last year, I was the only one who had self-published in the whole group, and we were 12 or 15 people. And many of them had the idea that they might eventually do that, but they were basically in for the fun. And I know one of them has been trying to do Nano for years, and she always comes in and she always starts and then she abandons it again. And yeah, they sort of said, wow, you published, and I'm like, well, I decided to do it. You can do it if you decide you want to do this, but it takes work. But most of them are just in there for the thrill of writing. I think it's really a thrill to start putting a story into words, and I think that's what a lot of people are in there for.
I think it's funny too. We're so entrenched in the world of self-publishing, and we just kind of assume that everybody gets it, they know about it. But I think we're still in the minority. I find I go out and I meet people in the community, and if they're writers, I think the majority of writers are still thinking, I'm going to try to get an agent and get traditionally published, and that's fine. Self-publishing isn't for everybody.
Do people talk about that on the boards, or is this primarily just about writing?
Primarily about writing, I think. I haven't seen much talk about the business side on the boards, but I haven't gone looking for it either. But I don't think so.
Well, I know that there's some discussion of what to do after Nano, but maybe that's towards the end of the month.
That could
and there's
be.
editing months. I think it's March editing months or something.
Yeah, Nano edit, and then there's Camp Nano, which I've never done, but
I haven't either. Is that the one in July?
I think so. Yeah. Where you get assigned to cabins with people and.
Yeah, I have a theory that those writers who are really successful in self-publishing, that they don't do Nano anymore. They may have been starting out with Nano, but basically they have their output every month. They have their schedule. They have their system of writing down. They no longer need Nano to be motivated to get a story out. I think they have outgrown Nano. I mean, I would like to put it that way. They have outgrown Nano, and seriously, I did 60,000 words in August. I did 40,000 words in September, and in October I fell off the bandwagon because stuff happened. But I'm following a couple of successful people, and they have word counts that are just beyond Nano every month. I think they no longer need this kind of support, the scaffold to create a story. So we probably shouldn't expect that kind of author to be a regular at Nano. Does that make sense?
It's probably not going to be the core of them. No, I think there's a few people that do it. Like I do it to give back too. I really like to help some of the newer people and answer questions and just kind of cheerlead them. So that's something that's just fun for me too. But it's true. Like in the little group I started a year ago, I had posted today just saying, hey, Nano's coming up, and one guy posted. He said, he said I did it last year and it was great, but he said, and it seemed almost unfathomable that I would hit that. And he said, and now I hit it every month. It's just another month for me.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't have quite that uptake in writing output, but that's pretty impressive. I also read somewhere, I mean, lots of people do this now, but I guess one woman was inspired. She publishes a novel every month after doing her first Nano.
I actually have a friend that publishes usually 3 books a month.
Full-length books?
No, they're more like novellas, between 30 and 40,000 words each. But she averages 3 a month, which is a lot of words.
Amazing. She probably is full-time, isn't she?
Oh, she's full-time, yeah.
I sure hope so.
Yeah, she is.
I couldn't imagine it even if she's working part-time in another job. I mean, but because you said that's about 100,000 words a month.
Yeah, it is.
She does 70 to 100,000.
Yeah.
Plus editing, plus formatting. So again, I can only imagine that if people have systems in place, plot, outline, write, edit, format. And she probably outsources the editing and the formatting because it takes so much time. But wow.
Yeah, she does, definitely. She outsources a lot, like the editing, the formatting. She has an assistant that does a lot of her social media, setting out her newsletter, all that stuff, all the admin stuff that takes so much time.
Yeah.
So you can focus on the writing.
Yeah. Diane and I share a coach, or rather, I'm no longer with the coach, but we have the same experience, and that is exactly what this coach always says. As soon as you can, create the systems, outsource what is not your best productivity part of the work, and I think it makes a lot of sense. I think that's the only way you can have such a high output.
Yeah, I can't imagine. For me, a good month.
Compared.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You're full-time, aren't you? You're a full-time writer now.
Me?
Yeah. No?
Oh, no, I still work. I work for myself, so I have gone from full-time recruiting down to half-time. So now I kind of split my time between recruiting and writing. So I probably write full-time and recruit half-time.
Do you want to make writing full-time, or do you like having the diversification in your...
I've done the recruiting for so long, and I do still enjoy it, so I probably will always keep my toes in it. But I think probably more and more time. Now I can be much pickier about what I choose to take on for assignments, so that's nice.
Yeah. So what is your plan for Nano?
My plan for Nano is I have to write 2 novellas. So my plan for the next couple of days is to work on my outlines.
Are these in a series, or?
What?
Are these in a series?
They are in an interesting project that is kind of a connected series, a big, huge group project that I'm doing with 45 other authors.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's going to be crazy. We are... I shouldn't say too much about it because we're having like a big Facebook party on November.
Yeah, no, that's fine. But if you could give like a general idea of what something 45 authors could work on is, particularly without
what I can tell
fights breaking out.
Yeah, it's every person's doing their own book, and each book is being released one a day for 50 days.
Oh, sweet.
51 days actually.
Right.
So it should take us through the holiday season, and we have a lot of fun stuff kind of around it. And there's a common theme. We all have the same template. We had a designer do the same template, so the books will all look branded. And so that's been like a fun project.
Yeah.
Sounds awesome. And this is my question. It's my domain because I'm a coach too. Is there any mindset aspect that you would called crucial or fundamental for doing nano and for flourishing as an author? Something about mindset that you would like to tell our listeners?
That's a really good question. I think if you're going to do nano and be successful at it, you just have to commit to it, and you have to believe that you will do it. And I think that was the key to me the year that I won. Was I'm like, I'm going to do it. You know, the years before, I didn't know if I could do it, and I'm like, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can do this. But then the year I just said, I am going to do this. You know, there's a mindset where you believe it and then you make it happen. And I think if you do that, you can achieve anything if you believe you're going to do it. So I think that's critical.
I love it. That's awesome. Yes.
Yeah, that's great. So, well, thank you very much, Pamela, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. That was fun.
Talking about NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month. You can find information about NaNoWriMo at nanowrimo.org, and I will put the link in the show notes. What is your NaNoWriMo name, Pamela?
Pamela M. Kelley.
Okay, so you're
I
not
shall go
hiding. I will also include these in the show notes, but I'm Diane of NKA. And what are you, Hannah?
Oh God, that's going to be hard. I'm Relevance, which is which used to be my screen name in many online places.
Yeah.
And it's a German word. It's Relevance with a Z at the end.
Yes.
And if you see the name Frille or Relevance and the little horsey on it, that should have been in my lower third.
Yes.
That will always be me. The stick horsey figure and Frille or Hannah. That's me on the internet.
So in case you want to find us online, I will post those in the show notes too. Any parting words you want to leave us with, Pamela?
Well, just good luck. Do an outline and go sprint.
It's Nano is one of the most fun things that I've ever done, I think. I will be, I believe, writing my zombie novella this month because I got to get it done sometime. So, and what are you working on, Hannah?
I probably won't be doing Nano this year.
Oh, that's right. You mentioned that. Yes.
Because I have a half-written novella that I have to finish. My publishing partners want it by early January to meet my next deadline, and I need to finish it, and that's going to be another 15K words, and then I don't know what I'll do afterwards, but I really want to finish these series that I'm doing for my new pen name. So I don't have a single project that I could, put into Nano. It just never worked out with everything I'm doing. So
right.
I'm probably not gonna do it. I signed up again, so I'm there. You can look me up, but I'm probably not going to do a word count for Nano.
Well, thank you for joining us. This has been another edition of the 21st Century Writer. If you are enjoying it, please leave us a review or rating on iTunes, or drop us a note at our website, the21stcenturywriter.com. My name is Diane Patterson.
I'm Hannah Steenbach.
And our very special guest has been Pamela Kelley,
Thanks
novelist
for having me.
and municipal liaison. Yes, yay! So thanks very much, and we will talk to you again soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.